What's up everybody, my name is Dwight and welcome back to GeForce Garage. Last week we showed you a mid-range PC featuring the RTX 2060 for around $1,000, and today we're going to be showing you that it is a great step-up card, especially if you're like my fellow GeForce host Julian, who happens to have a computer that is a few years old. All right, well, Julian, your PC is more than a couple of years old.
Yes, it is. This is some of the best hardware 2011 has to offer. I call it the Hammerhead Eye Eagle Thrust. I was actually given this entire PC for free. Everything on here has broken or gone wrong in some way, mostly my fault. The motherboard, the original one, the RAID controller died, so I had to buy an aftermarket one, and then the sound card died. The original water cooling system, the pump, died, hence the gap in the front. Basically everything you see before you, I've swapped out at some point or other.
Gotcha. So is this still your main rig?
No, this right now has actually sort of fallen out of use. The hardware in there right now is an Intel Core i7 3960X. It's got 16 gigs of RAM and it's got an MSI GTX 770. And 5 years ago, that was fantastic. But not too long ago, I bought a laptop with a 1060 in it. I travel a lot for GeForce, interviewing devs and hardware makers, and thought that would just be my side piece. And it's sort of become my main rig, and now this sits at home neglected, and that makes me sad.
Well, I think we could definitely help you out. We have a couple of parts in our stock room that we haven't found projects for. So we have an ASUS X99 Sabertooth that has a working RAID controller and working sound card.
Hallelujah.
We have an i7 6950X. I know you've been trying to get into streaming, and that really wasn't a thing when this PC was built, so that's definitely going to help out a lot. We have another 16 gig kit of RAM, but this one's faster and DDR4, get you up into the modern age. And of course, we're going to be throwing in an RTX 2060, which is going to be miles better than that GTX 770. And best of all, you're going to be building it.
That's exciting. I've never built something from the ground up on my own.
Well, let's get started. All right, well, it's all put together. So how was it, Julian?
Not as scary as I expected. It was really nice having you there to point things out and make sure that no motherboards were harmed in the making of this build. But I feel like it came together pretty easily, and I'm so happy with the finished result. I think the cables that we put in there and all the components that you guys picked out just work so well together. My personal favorite part, no more just green, now RGB, baby.
Nice.
But let's keep it on showroom white, and you can see the nice color scheme and everything.
Yeah, I think definitely white is probably the way to go because this is a much more clean build now. It was easier than I expected, but there was one little flaw. There is no cable tie downs on the back, so doing cable management and stuff is a little bit more difficult. We fixed the case feet because one of them was real wobbly. It was missing a screw completely.
Yes, much like me. While we were at it, we found a tray to go in the front so it doesn't look like a hockey player that's missing teeth. This wouldn't be the Hammerhead Eye Eagle Thrust though if something didn't break and the little flap on the front covering the USB ports decided it doesn't want to close ever again. So that's my life now.
And if the Ham Eye Eagle Fist, or whatever you're calling it, decides to act up again, we did actually give you an M.2 to U.2 NVMe drive that's now going to have your operating system on it. That way you don't need to worry about your RAID falling out because that's only going to be for games now.
So it's cleaner, it's prettier. Now the only question is, how does it perform?
Let's go find out. So Julian took a bunch of footage of what his old PC performance was, so I'll be doing a little side-by-side for all of these. In 3D Mark, his original PC got a 973, not even breaking 1,000, mostly due to that GTX 770. When we move over to his new PC, we scored a 7,692, putting it above the recommended score for a 4K gaming PC. Since he took footage of both 1080p and 1440p performance, we'll see how much of an improvement both will be. In Assassin's Creed Odyssey at 1080p and ultra high settings, we're going from 9 FPS to 58. Going over to 1440p on the same settings, we went from an incredible 4 frames per second to 42. This is a pretty demanding game though on ultra settings. In Overwatch at 1080p on epic settings, the left is his old PC at about 30 frames per second, and the right is his new one at 130 frames per second. And when we take it up to 1440p, we see it go from 25 FPS to an average of about 100 frames per second. In Far Cry 5 at 1080p on ultra presets, the old PC chugged along at an average of 16 FPS, while in the new setup we saw about 100 frames per second. Bringing it up to 1440p on the same settings, we saw the average go from 11 frames per second to a very respectable 74. And last but not least, we check out Shadow of the Tomb Raider. At 1080p on the highest preset, we had 10 FPS on the old PC and 90 on the new setup. Moving to 1440p, the average frames per second went from 7 all the way up to 60, still on the highest settings. So as expected, it performs great all around, and aesthetically, it's much more pleasing.
I gotta say, thank you so much for having me here. I had a great time actually learning a lot, building it, and now I'm gonna have games that are at playable frame rates, which is a big difference in my life. And it's really become a centerpiece now when it was once this neglected thing in the corner of my apartment. So thank you so much for having me on GeForce Garage.
No problem, it was my pleasure. If you guys enjoyed this video, be sure to hit that subscribe button down below, and we'll see you for the next one.